Hello, everyone. I'm Bo from Brutal Commentary, and today I'm going to be breaking down our next matchup for UFC Mexico City. In this matchup, we have Imanol Rodriguez taking on Kevin Borjas. This should be a fun one. In fact, if I really think about it, this might be the most explosive fight on the card. I'm not going to say it's the fight of the night. I personally think that's probably going to be the co-main and/or main event. But for my money, this is probably the most explosive fight, as both guys are willing to brawl, both are very comfortable in exchanges, and neither is afraid of a fight. The difference here isn't who's willing to do it; it's just about power, trajectory, and overall ceiling. But with that said, let's look at our two fighters. Starting with Kevin Borjas, he's currently 10-4 as a professional, 2-3 in his last 5 fights. Now, in the UFC specifically, he is 1-4. But you look at that record, he's actually a lot better than what that indicates. You look at it, right? His first fight in the UFC was against Joshua Van, who's champion, about as tough as you can get. Then loses to Alessandro Costa, who's also pretty good. His only win in the UFC as of right now is to Ronaldo Rodriguez, which I gotta say, he seemingly beat Ronaldo Rodriguez into obscurity because he hasn't fought since then. And then most recently lost a fight to Sumadarchi, who, was a former top 15 fighter. So you look at Borjas, he's not really losing to bad guys. It's just there's clearly a level that he cannot surpass for what it seems to be, at least at the skill level. Now, looking at Imanol Rodriguez, he's currently 6-0 as a professional. So, of course, that means he is 5-0 in his last 5 fights. Now, his last fight was in the Contender Series where he blew through... where's that name? There we go. Raquel Concenato. Oh, I think I'm pronouncing that right. It just blew through him very quickly. Kind of a trains with Daniel Cormier. And before the Contender Series, Rodriguez did fight on the Ultimate Fighter, season 33, Sonnen versus DC. And he won. He got all the way to the semifinals where he had a close fight with Joseph Morales. In many ways, could have won that fight. So definitely a good blue chip prospect. But like I said, this should be a fun scrap. Both guys are willing to brawl, and I expect fireworks with this one. But with that out of the way, let's get down to the breakdown. Starting with Rodriguez, 26-year-old, like I said, only 6 fights to him, but he's definitely, I think, a blue chip prospect. First thing that I would say jumps out is his athleticism. Rodriguez is very explosive, fast, and when he throws with real intent. He's primarily a striker, but not reckless to a degree. Rodriguez, he's patient. He does wait for his openings, and he doesn't always rush into chaos unless he chooses to. But once he does, he definitely does. And that is a very important distinction because a lot of young fighters with punching power always look to brawl and usually have that confidence of not knowing their own limitations. But Rodriguez, he's comfortable letting the fight develop. Of course, though, primarily does like to initiate firefight, but not every time. And when things do engage, though, like I said, Rodriguez, he's dangerous. He's got good power or good timing, and he carries that explosive burst that can change that fight instantly. Now, I would say his grappling hasn't been fully tested yet, except for Joseph Morales, but Morales is a really good grappler. But against other opposition that we've seen so far, Rodriguez, he's shown good positional awareness. He understands where he is in the transition, and he's shown that he can secure takedowns himself. So he's not just a puncher, but make no mistake, the striking is his A game. Now, looking at Kevin Borjas, he himself is a technical boxer, mostly when he chooses to be. He has a good jab. He can work in combinations very well. You saw, even in the loss to Joshua Van, Borjas had very good boxing exchanges with Joshua Van, who's one of the best boxers in the UFC. And he has solid fundamentals. But here's the thing about Borjas. He definitely loves to brawl. And he doesn't always stick to the technical approach that would probably win him fights. He does get into he gets drawn into exchanges. And while that works against certain opponents, and then against Ronaldo Rodriguez, it doesn't hold up very well against higher level fighters, especially opponents who can either control the range like Sumadarchi, who can match or exceed his power like Joshua Van, or have heavy artillery like Alessandro Costa, more specifically with those heavy leg kicks. So those usually, any one of those three, that has Borjas struggling. And while Borjas is dangerous in chaos, But chaos against someone who's stronger or more explosive is very risky. And that's the exact scenario he could be walking into here. Now, looking at the stylistic clash, the fight probably stays standing. I can't imagine both guys are going to shoot that many takedowns. Rodriguez, he's comfortable striking. Borjas is comfortable striking. Like I said, neither one is likely to immediately pursue a grapple-heavy approach. The key difference here is control. Rodriguez can fight technical and then explode. Borjas tends to fight technical until he doesn't. If Borjas stays disciplined and boxes at range, he can make this competitive. He has the skills to land clean. But if this turns into a mid-range firefight, Rodriguez likely has the edge, as he's younger, probably more explosive, and he carries, I think, more natural power. And if Rodriguez gives Borjas the fight he wants, a brawl, that might actually favor Rodriguez, because in a power for power exchange, Rodriguez probably the harder hitter. Plus, just looking at it, you have upside versus potential here. It's the way I see it, right? Borjas has more professional experience. He has 14 fights to Rodriguez is 6, so that immediately tells you. But I think Rodriguez has more upside. And sometimes experience can neutralize athleticism. We've seen it. But when the athletic gap includes speed and power, that's hard to overcome. And Rodriguez, he's still developing. He already looks physically ahead in this matchup. And at 26, with only 6 fights, his improvement curve is likely steep. Or I guess the upside is more. And while Borjas, he feels more like a finished product. You know what you're going to get with him. A fun brawl, good boxing, but can be overmatched against better technicians or those with, like I said, more firepower. And while Rodriguez feels like he's going to still ascend in not only just the flyweight division, but just in his career overall. So looking at it overall, Borjas absolutely has a path to victory. If he can stay disciplined, use his boxing, and avoid prolonged exchanges in the pocket, I can see him winning the rounds. But historically, he doesn't always stick to the game plan. And if this becomes a fight fought at mid-range with heavy exchanges, Rodriguez likely lands the more impactful shots. When you combine the youth, explosiveness, and power, that's a tough equation to fade. So, for my official prediction, I got to go with Imanol Rodriguez. I think he's just too young, too explosive, too powerful. And even if he gives Borjas his preferred kind of fight, like I said, he likely just has the heavier artillery. So I see them both exchanging. Probably going to be a fun back and forth, more or less. But like I said, I got to go with Imanol Rodriguez. And I think he's going to get the TKO in here. Now, Borjas is historically pretty tough. But I think Rodriguez has the power to put him away. So, once again, my official prediction, I'm going to go with Imanol Rodriguez. I'm going to pick him via knockout in this one. Or TKO, however you want to think it is. But once again, I'm going to go with KO here. But with that said, that's been my official breakdown of this matchup. If you enjoyed the video, like, subscribe, and leave a comment down below on who you think is going to win. But until then, I've been Bo from Brutal Commentary. I thank you all for listening. Remember, stay calm, stay respectful, and enjoy the violence. I'll see y'all next time.